tribe.
Hey.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, yes. Let's see.
We've already had our bitch session, so
Oh, well, yeah.
but
Yes.
but yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about some of the strange lights that we have encountered on our expeditions that we do. And we've got, some of our buddies here, some of our fellow tribe that we're going to discuss these odd lights with.
Odd lights.
Yes, odd lights, because we've all experienced them at one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be out Bigfooting to experience these lights either.
No.
Because before I ever got into Bigfooting, we would run into these lights in the woods.
I had a weird light. I had a weird light experience when I was in college.
Yeah.
So,
and it would happen time and time and time again. Didn't matter. You didn't have to be in the same place. It just happened all the time. So these lights are out there, whether we're Bigfooting or not,
Yep.
So, we haven't figured them out. Nobody knows, but we might as well be talking about it because it's happened to us, it's happening to other people. So, we're going to talk about it and see if don't go into the light. Nope. That's right.
Go into the light.
That's Pyro. He says, don't go into the light.
Yeah, I see that. I'm seeing that. That's what I'm doing when I'm looking down here.
Yep. It's kind of like, is that kind of like stop, drop, and roll? You don't go into the light, stop, drop, and roll.
All I can see is Tangia. Don't go into the light. Yeah, all I can see.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go ahead and bring Chris out. Chris can't talk.
Chris Blaylock.
Yep. My girlfriend there. We're going to bring her out. She and her husband, Gary, and Levi all had an experience out when we did the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. So we're going to bring Chris on, let Chris tell us about that experience. And then we've got the one and only Levi who will be adding to all our goodies. So
infamous by now, the infamous
I know, Levi is infamous. So here we go, girl.
Hey, Chris.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, is it your anniversary?
It is.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
How many years?
6.
There you go.
Yeah, 6 married.
I have to ask Robert too.
we spent your anniversary with you, so now you can spend
right. Yes, absolutely. Isn't that funny how that works out?
I love it.
Absolutely. So, Chris, walk us into the light experience that you and Gary had when we were on the private property.
Well, I'm going to start from the beginning, from where I was doing some thermal scoping around, and I actually got a little hit, but it was small, and it looked like it was kind of peeking out of a little tree there, and where it was at was there's a riverbed that goes through there, and Levi was coming up, and so we walked back to get Gary because Levi had been hearing some things over by a shed.
Mm-hmm.
So we all walked down there to kind of see what was going on, and Gary was like, well, you guys stand here, because Levi had a thermal and I did too. He said, and I'll walk down and you guys can see if I flush anything out. Especially as tall as he is, he would probably scare something. So he started walking down. We went past that shed, and then we turned on the gravel road there, and he started walking down because we kept hearing some things. And we got down to the end of the road there, because I turned around and looked, and I was there by myself and him and Levi, because Levi kind of followed him up there. So I kind of caught up with them, and we were standing there, and we were doing radio checks, trying to figure out where everybody was at. And so David had checked in and let us know where he was at. And then all of a sudden, this big, bright, round, like a flashlight, shined on us, and we all turned and looked, and I said, well, that must be David, and looked through the thermal. There was nobody there, and then the light went out. And we were like, okay.
Okay.
So Gary has this big old massive light, and
Right.
he shined the light, nothing there. We walked down toward where that was at, and there was two other people that were sitting down in that riverbed, and we asked them if they had seen anything, and they said that they had saw a light, and then they seen a great big light, and then everything went dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so we couldn't figure out what was going on. There was some people up on the hill that was up in there. They come down. They didn't see the light, but it seriously was just like one big bright flashlight, perfectly round, that just shined on, like somebody clicked it on, shined it at us, and then clicked it off.
Okay.
Wild.
And so did anybody therm that?
Yeah, me and Levi both did, and there was nobody there. Nothing there.
Right.
Nothing.
That's wild. Well, let's go ahead and bring Levi on and have him add to this, and we'll just continue on down this rabbit hole. So here we go. Here's Levi. Hey!
Woo! Welcome.
Make sure.
Yep, we got you.
Present
hear
enough.
you. Yeah.
Perfect.
So Chris has brought us up to the point where you've all seen this light. You've thermed.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So give us your take on this, Levi.
Yeah. So we had walked down the road, kind of the location of this is in a large valley. So we are essentially surrounded by hillside, each direction possible. The groups had split to kind of try and see if they could move stuff in towards the camp a little more. We were getting hits of stuff like out in the perimeter essentially the entire time. So as we walked down to go towards another house it's substantially far, like at least 2 football fields, I would say 3 in total. We weren't getting anything through thermal. Mr. David had let me use his, I think he had FLIR or thermal, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
We walked down, no real like anything on that end. But we were getting like audible stuff coming in. There was a lot of activity from the dogs at that point in time at the farm down the road. And we were hearing, it's really hard to explain. It was like faint, like responses to the dogs barking potentially. But it didn't sound like another dog. The sound was kind of, I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was kind of like a high pitched like yell, but not a person, obviously. And it was way in the distance. We had noticed that back in the back, there was just a ton of sound up on this ridge line that we really didn't have access to because of that road. And the dogs that were barking were Great Pyrenees, so they're like huge.
Yeah, and they're loose down there too.
Yeah. So they were not in the mood to hang out and play.
No.
So just kind of hitting a stop point in the road there and being like, yeah, we don't really need to go any farther. We turned around and just like you described, like one light really quick and then another light, like very, very intense white light. And it was on the road and it was the same exact direction that we had just walked from. And the corresponding, sighting from the 2 researchers that were kind of sitting by the creek bed. I mean, it literally, to me, it looked like someone was beaming us with a flashlight to see if we were down the road. So when we turned around and, started to look, and with thermal and FLIR or whatever it was, exactly 2 different units of night vision, there's just nothing in the road. we knew that the two guys were off to the right, but from where they were to move to the point where that light first appeared, they would, I mean, they're Usain Bolt at that point. Like they're Olympic sprinters out and back. And
Right.
there
was that
no
Mike
movement.
and Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike and Jerry. Yeah.
Princess and Spork?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And where
Okay.
where they were sitting too is a good, I mean, it's at least 80 yards away from where we saw the light. And
Right.
the worst part was when we turned around, though, we had already had like the night vision optics up and we're looking to see if we could see anything around, but there's just nothing. And then all of a sudden this light comes out of nowhere. So as we started walking back, we kind of thought that maybe I had been hearing movement up on the hillside, and we did find out that William and some others were up there, but
Oh, yeah.
for them to come back down through the brush and the trees and the terrain that they had to climb through, it's just not possible. When they came down after we finally like walked back to the point where we were flashed from and then blasted the hill line with light, they would have fallen hard and been injured at that, to some extent, because it was not easy to go in and out, and there was a barbed wire fence that they had to separate and climb through. So yeah, and this was the first full night that we had, anyone out from the camp. But yeah, it was the brightest, most intense, like, and closest just flash of light I've seen in the woods, period. And we just couldn't find anything. There was no explanation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you should have been able to have gotten something with the night vision or the FLIR or any of that.
Yeah, yeah. And the best part was, I don't know if you remember, but the moon coverage that entire time we were out there was pretty intense. It was like it was essentially a full moon 3 nights in a row. Yeah. So we could see visibly without any instrumentation whatsoever. Sure. We could see where the light had come from, and I have pretty good night vision, just eye wise. It's because I'm never awake during the day, so So for me to look down and there was no one in the road. Like I don't know how, unless there was a light on a trigger and a crazy pullback machine that someone had rigged up to hoax us. That's the only explanation.
Yeah,
but had
William's out there doing that when we're not there. Yeah,
yeah, he's Right. But we had the previous night before everyone got there. We had walked out and we had some activity on that hillside, and I was like, okay, this probably someone needs to pay kind of attention to this area, and that's why those two, I think, were specifically out there in the creek line, because they could watch the hill, they could watch the road, and they could also monitor the creek line the entire time.
Yeah,
they basically were the blocking from anything coming in on the creek or in and out of the camp through the main front entrance. But yeah, absolutely confused. Like it had to be at least like a 4,000 lumen flashlight if it was measured. It was very, very intense.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And it was so fast. Like I'm not even sure. It was like on for a second, off, and then on for a millisecond and off again. It literally looked like someone was trying to flash us to signal us to come down that way. But yeah, crazy.
That's wild.
And it was instant when we looked at our the thermal, instantly right up, and I'm like, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
That it's just wild. I mean, there's no explaining it.
No.
Because where it was at, you all had to walk past it. You would have seen, if, like you said, if there'd been anything set up, you'd have seen it, you know. And if it was somebody, when you thermed it, you would have got the heat signal off of them. So, totally. It doesn't. So, Chris, have you ever had any other experiences with lights before?
We had one in Gettysburg, an experience with the light, but it was not that intense. It was a lot smaller and round, but it actually come toward more Gary than it was me. But it was a white light, no bluish to it. You know, some of these ghost lights, mystery lights, they have that bluish tint to it. It was
Yeah.
also just like a pure white light.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then I've seen them in the LBL a couple times, and I've really been trying to dig into it and research. There's not a whole lot of data collection on them, just stories, you know, encounters and stuff from people. But ones I can't explain as being a natural phenomenon. It was, you know, nothing natural about that. How it come on and off the way it did.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, and we've got David in here and he's talking about Big Frog. Do you want to tell us about that?
That was his experience at Big Frog. But he had seen a couple lights at Big Frog, and ones though that I kind of thought it maybe was some of the fireflies that were going on. They had the weirdest fireflies in the world there. But yeah, he and they love David. Let me tell you.
Is he firefly attractant?
He is the firefly.
I was when I was little, so I was like, I'd sing to them. Yeah,
he is the firefly king. They're drawn to him. They follow this one at Big Frog. Followed him, and like almost got eye level, like it was looking at him. It was really just strange.
And he's back on there. He says, no, it was the big flashlight looking thing that hit the back of the truck while we were up in the camp area.
Oh. Yeah, but he really would need to tell that story. He's much
okay. Well, we'll have him tell that at some point. Yeah, and Pyro's asking if David is a fairy.
At least partly.
Well, and then he had another firefly come up to him at the LBL. So I'm just saying he attracts the fireflies.
Well,
I get it.
So when we were sitting at the lake that night where there was no sound, remember there was some little light down there where he was sitting.
It was a firefly.
Yeah. And it was like, he's like, no, we're not doing this again. You know, we're not doing this again. So anyway, yeah, the lights. So Levi, tell us a strange light experience you've had. I know you got them.
Oh yeah. I just sent you a photo. And I believe, hi, David, I see you're in the comments over here. The donut is the most curious one. So, I mean, yeah, it happens quite a bit. There's two that are, we'll go with the first one in Missouri. And then I'll talk about the donut. So my research area, I've talked about it quite a bit. Weldon Springs, it's like 20 minutes outside of St. Louis. It's a nature preserve. There's thousands of acres of land that are basically just protected. And there's a gated portion in an area that has like 36 lakes, I think. So the gate is a hard close at 10 p.m. So I had some activity in another portion of the park or the area down the road and decided to run in and kind of see what was going on with the lakes. I had heard some reports about some weird stuff that happens with direction out there, people running into lakes that they can't find later on via any type of mapping system.
Wild.
Yeah, the one story that's really prominent is crazy. And there's photographic evidence of this mysterious lake that kind of came out of nowhere and these people found. So yeah, went to the lake area. As I was done and driving out of the park, I was making my way towards the gate. There's no other cars. There's no air traffic that's flying this low. There's no swamp gas. There's really no way to explain it. And I see from my driver's seat, I see two lights that are coming from two totally separate directions. And when I say lights, I'm not talking like huge, massive lights. These are lights that were honestly probably the size of a tennis ball or smaller. And they're hauling, like moving through the sky. And they get really, really close and they start to slow down. And as they slow down, they get within what I would consider an inch from each other. and they stop, and then they just disappear, completely dissipate. They didn't crash. They didn't go into each other. They didn't fizzle out like a meteor or a shooting star or falling star, whatever, the
Yeah.
general explanation would be. And this was like 25 feet off the ground. I could have probably stood on the roof of my car and tried to jump and maybe got close to them. That's how like close this encounter was at that time.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that is like that, where you have these things that will interact, but they don't really have a purpose, or they don't really seem to play into like the larger role. The Joplin lights near, where you guys are
The
is
spook lights. Yeah.
is a big one. It's just
Yeah.
an anomaly that decides that it wants to interact, and when it does it in a million different ways, and it happens all across the world. So yeah, that was like the first one that really got me. I went to Joplin and saw the Joplin lights, which they were far. They didn't come. I hoped that they would come closer and kind of interact, but they kind of stayed their distance.
Those don't usually get real close. Once in a while, you'll hear somebody say that, but for the most part, they stay quite a ways away.
So when it is worth mentioning though, every report that I had heard about the Joplin lights, the spook lights, were like in amber and glowing. So one was amber, but one was kind of pulsating, which was odd to me. It seemed like it was going between the two. But they were moving, when I saw them, they were moving like all over the place, like pretty erratically.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't like a slow, steady, like
Or just a
controlled
steady
movement.
on.
Yeah, it was like they're over here, they're spreading apart, they're coming together, and the one is pulsating and one is just amber. So, and I've not read a lot of, reports or heard reports of that like happening to a ton of people. The most prominent light though recently has been the donut. So, I was same spot. I was out at a research area. I was in pretty late, and there's a giant cleared field. There's two fields, but this one is the biggest one in the region, or in the general area of that park. And I had come out of a clear cut tractor path that they use to like mow the grass and everything to keep it, kind of under control.
Sure.
And I catch this green glow on the ground, not in the sky, it's on the ground. So it's sitting like right on the ground. And I pulled my phone up and took a photo as quickly as I could. And one of the things I do pretty regularly is if I capture a photo, I'll go back a few minutes later and look at it like through the iPhone and like, mess with the settings to try to figure out what it is.
Sure.
But this particular one, so I saw it, took a photo, started walking towards it, and then the same thing, it just kind of fizzled out. And I was able to tell from the photograph versus where I was standing, like the general area that it was in. And this night I had a pretty substantial set of like, research lights. So I lit the area up trying to figure out what it possibly could be, and there's nothing. There's nothing on the ground, no source of light, no like weird little bug that, it was cold. It was like 30s that night and mildly rainy, so it wasn't, it's not a lightning bug. People are going to be like, oh, it's swamp gas or a lightning bug, and it's like there's no swamp gas out here. And the lightning bug has froze to death, unfortunately,
at this point
already.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
But as I was in the area, I pulled the photo out, and it's funny. I sent this to David, and like a recorded video, like a screen recorded video of me trying to like mess with all the settings to see what it is.
Yeah.
And it literally looks like a glowing green donut. Like it has a black center, and you can tell that the edges are kind of smooth or rounded. And it just looks like this donut that's illuminated on the outside with this hole in the center that's pitch black. There's nothing in the area. Can't find anything. There's definitely no one around. Everybody leaves this. I swear it's like I get in there and the latest people stay is like 7. And if it's winter like it is now, it's dark out there by 5. There was no one there past 5 p.m.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's, that's like a common thing. But there's one of the things that happens like I think there's a connection between light anomalies and then the type of phenomena that you're interacting with, because we've noticed that certain areas are so dense that you can't see very far into the tree line, or you can't see, you don't get like a big field of view with a bunch of people. So it's almost like whatever's around will pop this light on, however they do it, and then your attention goes that way, and then maybe something happens off to the left or behind you or the right. It's like you start to see that people have these things happen almost immediately in tune with another thing that's happening at the same time, or very shortly after, or very quickly before. And in Bigfoot, it seems like the Bigfoot research realm, it seems to happen a lot. Lights for UFOs and anything else. I mean, we could talk for 2 months about, the first light we saw that we had spoke about on the last time I was on the show. So,
right. Well, and so the last BFRO expedition that we did, that first night when we were down on the river, Chris and Gary were seeing that amber light on top of the hill. Right.
Yeah.
That was the same night that there was something large thrown in the river, downriver, next to Robert and Billy. And David was telling us there was activity at the vehicles. You and I were walking back to the vehicles, and then the lights show up after all that stuff subsided. We had the lights up on the side of the hill.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the girls had, the 3 girls had come in, and they had a pretty substantial like time spent sitting in a chair watching the same sort of thing, very bright white light in an area where we really shouldn't have seen anything. I mean, it's right towards the edge of a cliff that's 100+ feet.
Right. And we walked that road the next night, and that side of it over there just drops off. Yep. And if you think about it, if you had a light up there, it would have to be a substantial light to show up and what we were seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. And from what I recall, everything was moving too. It was almost like it was just kind of floating around, which is interesting because the whole entire time we're down by the riverbed, I was thinking about this later on, everybody was so focused on that ridge line. We were really the only ones that went back towards the car. David was kind of up on the hill, but David had continuous activity around him. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like what I said earlier, you have something that this light pops on, everyone's attention goes that way. And then all this stuff behind you just goes absolutely crazy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's some plans for the next time we're in that spot to try and, maybe counteract the light with another set of lights, so maybe we can trick them into saying, oh, hey, we need to pay attention to that light.
Right.
If we start doing what they're doing, we get the same result, But I mean, David had activity the whole entire time that was around him, and everyone was down by the riverbed, and other than you and I up by the cars, he was pretty isolated and very alone. And when we went back and saw the area the next day, I was even like, this is wild. We had a lot of activity behind us without really knowing it. He was just kind of hunkered down and ready to roll in case anything, got too crazy.
Right. Yeah. Literally roll down the hill.
Yeah. What was interesting, go ahead, sorry.
Well, in that area, that is the exact activity we've had in the past. We have rolled in there. There was, I don't know, about 8 of us sitting out on that gravel bar staring at the cliffs. I mean, we had chairs, the whole 9 yards, and we're staring across the cliffs because even prior to that, that's where the activity, they had seen things, right? And what do we have happen? They come in behind us. Richard was able to catch one on his thermal, and you can see the side of the face, the shoulder, the arm as it moves through the bushes away from us. So in that area, they like to come down in on you when you're at the river. I mean, that's happened multiple times in that spot. So it doesn't surprise me that we had that activity. It doesn't surprise me that we had the lights, it's that goes on in that area.
So the surrounding area that we were in, directly behind where David was sitting, when we came up the next day, because we went back to the same spot, or no, this was the last day. Remember, we kept trying to get you to go back to the other side.
Yeah.
There you go, David.
The other
that
side.
Was for you.
Yeah.
And when I think it was Gary, David, and I, and one of the newer guys that came, a younger kid, we kind of all walked up that hill, and then he came up at the tail end. Him and I went into the woods that were directly behind where David was sitting. And from the road, you can't see 10 feet in there. When him and I walked into the tree line, David had FLIR and was able to watch us for a good maybe 20, 25 feet. And then as we got in, he was like, on the radio, he's like, I can't see you. But one thing that we noticed, which was really interesting, and we talked about this a little the next morning, it was almost like there was a tree cut highway. Like we got to a point where we saw the moonlit clearing, and I said, hey, look, we're going to walk into this clearing. We're going to see what happens. And if we start having activity, we're going to turn around and back out and try to pull it out. And almost immediately as him and I hit that clearing, we had boom, boom, boom movement. And I told him, I was like, look, there's something of 3 paying attention to us currently. But what was interesting is once you hit that clearing, you could see into the forest deeper, because it was almost like all the brush 10 feet from the clearing on one side and 10 feet from the clearing on the other side had been pulled out and dragged somewhere else. So there was this like tunnel of vision that you had through this very small corridor. But as soon as you step past either clearing, you couldn't be seen. You were in thick again. So hearing David explain like what he had happening behind him, and then going into that location and being like I radioed and said, hey, I need a beacon so we can get out of here. And he hit us with the red light. Yeah. And we were already way off course. We had to turn hard to the left, but it was interesting because my brain immediately went, whatever's been interacting and was behind him the other night, like it stood in that clearing and probably watched and said, okay, we're going to do this because we can see them. They cannot see us. Mm-hmm. And as we came out, he was like, I had you guys for a very short amount of time on FLIR, and then you were just completely gone. So it is interesting too, because that clear-cut moonlit trail goes directly to that hillside. And if you follow it correctly, probably up and around. So it's like, okay, like they choose the easiest direction of travel possible, potentially, like they're going to follow this highway that we can't see essentially. And the way that FLIR works is even night vision, like that sheet or that beam that comes through the tree line, you're not really going to see much in it because you're picking up all everything else that's around that's affecting the instruments. So
exactly. Well, and if we go back into that area, I think what we need to do is stop at the top of the hill next time during the day and move down the hill. Assess that in the daytime, move through that hillside during the day. Because every time, I mean, we haven't been back over there in a few years. And so the river, the gravel bar, that's all different from like it was when we were there the last time. So it changes, but that's an area that it doesn't matter when we've been in there. We've always had some kind of activity, I mean, we had the screaming the next couple of nights, up on top of the other hills. So,
that whole, those mimicking incidents were pretty hard to swallow. that next
Yeah.
morning. That was not great. I wasn't scared, but I was very concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting area, but I can't remember what I was watching or heard it on something that they were talking about going into areas where there's no sound, and it made me think of that night in the LBL when
Yep.
we were on the lake and we were just like in this bubble.
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever experienced that anywhere else? Either one of you?
No.
I have, but it was probably my fault. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
I was in an area alone, probably knocking on the door of some stuff that I shouldn't
be.
And
Yeah.
then,
Oh my gosh.
I have this thing called I'm not trying to take over, this segment here, but I have this thing that's called the helmet. I call it the helmet. It's not a physical helmet, but what happens is if I'm in somewhere and I'm doing something that the phenomena or the anomalies are not really cool with, this helmet goes on and I start to get like sensory loss. So first it's like my head gets really hot and then the sound starts to go and then my vision starts to go. And once it hits the ears, it's like game over. It's time to get out. So yeah, I had a very weird helmet incident with just sound that, but it was odd because when I moved out of where I was, as soon as I hit a very hard drawn line, a circle, all sound came back and I went back in. And so, yeah, that was my fault. I'll just put that one there. But no, other than LBL, no. Yeah.
That's wild. Well, and it makes me wonder too. It's like, as the more we do this and the more that we go on, we are starting to have these weird experiences, and it's like, are we stirring something up? Has this always been out there? Are we just more open to it now? I mean, what do you, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, when we first started this, or when I first started it, doing the Bigfooting, I wasn't looking for anything else. I was just looking for Bigfoot, but other stuff would happen, which it still kind of does that for me. I'm out looking for Bigfoot, but I have the lights. I have things I can't explain.
Yeah. To me, everything pays attention. So once you're in it and you're putting out that type of like thought and being like, okay, yeah, like I'm going to go here and find this. I think at one point I explained it like when I go out, I experience a little bit different than the rest of the group because the group is more so focused on just Bigfoot as a phenomena or an entity or a whole unit of whatever that realm is. For me, I look both at that and then what else could potentially be around. So I'll get stuff that no one else will get. Marianne, you start to pick up on some of the stuff, but I know for a fact that that's because I'm out here doing, potentially the opposite of what everybody else is doing with the intent and the focus to try and really just get hammered with every type of anything that wants to come in and say, hey, like I'm here to pay attention to me. I have noticed that from the first expedition I went on up until the time we went to LBL and then LBL after, the experiences have kind of started to change a little bit. For me, it's cool to see because I think that the group dynamic, when other types of researchers come in, it kind of gives people like maybe and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but not just a focus on the Bigfoot realm or the phenomena. People start to be like, oh yeah, well, I had something that happened through like a discussion or stories or whatever. I think it starts to open people's like maybe little window of what they think is going on to potentially something that's way, way huge. And it's cool to see we started here at Bigfoot. We're still here in Bigfoot, but then there's also this other stuff that's kind of coming in too, that's saying hello with the lights and the mimicking. The lights being a big one. The first expedition that I went on, when we had that, the guy just hanging out in the sky for a couple nights, you were like, we don't really have this. Like, it happens, but we've never really had it on an expedition. And it's cool to see some of the people that were on that trip be like, yeah, I went back out and I had something else happen that was really close to that. So for me, I think once you knock on the door, if you focus on one thing, you're going to get that back. If you focus on more than one thing, you'll get whatever feels like, you're comfortable with experiencing or accepting. So, yeah.
Because that first expedition that you showed up on, Levi, that was pretty funny. Because we're all like, we don't do UFOs, UAPs, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're like, this is not our rabbit hole. We don't do this. And 2 hours later, we're still doing it.
Yeah, you're just looking at one with enough people to, be categorized as like a mass sighting for.
Yeah.
I still have not found. I have a giant pink book right over there that's like this thick, and I cannot find any type of explanation or any case that's been reported where more than like 4 people have witnessed the same thing for a long duration of time. And 2 hours is a pretty substantial amount of time.
It is. It is. And there was about 15 of us up there, total, because we had taken 3 vehicles of people up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and then 2 vehicles left and one, but even at LBL, like Levi had said, or Eli, sorry, I'm Levi.
Yeah.
I do that usually.
So Eli had said that he's out there a lot. And from what I understand, he's in the comments. He'll probably tell us, hey, Eli,
he is.
He said that no one's had an experience where there's just no sound. And I mean, it was pretty substantial. We were by the lake at night, and there's a boat that's moving, and you should be able to hear a paddle boarder,
Yeah.
And we're all standing there, and I mean, David's even watching. I think he said there was a deer across the lake.
There was a deer. Mm-hmm.
And he was watching the deer through FLIR, and it's not reacting to us being loud. I made a telephone call, didn't do anything. We have this boat moving and nothing, no noise from that whatsoever. No wake, like no haul splash, like absolutely nothing. It was like we were in this like void of any type of noise. But what was interesting, behind us, if you walked away from the tree line or the river or the lake line, you could start to hear bugs. But as you got closer, it just dissipated and completely shut off. That's still, I can't, that one is a big one because I wasn't getting anything other than not hearing anything. And I was like, this is really crazy. Like, I don't even know what to do at this point.
That was just a very bizarre night all the way around with all the things that we experienced that night, which just makes me want to go back to the LBL even worse, because it's like, okay, it's got to get better next time as far as weird things that happen. But I want to squirrel on y'all here a little bit. So someone was talking, and it's moved on. I can't see it right now. About they were in Arkansas a couple of weeks ago, and that couple of ATVers had told him that they had seen a couple of trolls on the trail.
Oh, whoa.
Okay. So when we were in Arkansas in September, we were seeing, for the lack of a better term, these things that were taking on the shapes of fairies. One of the BFRO members, he had his his FLIR out one night, and he saw it. He walked down the road toward it. He was, watching it, and he came back to me, and we're just standing in the middle of the road, and he goes, I can't go back and tell this to anybody. I said, well, what do you mean you can't tell this to anybody? What'd you see? Right. And he's like, it looked like a damn fairy. He said it had that shape to it, wings and a body shape. And it was showing up as a heat signature, but not a hot signature. It wasn't cold, Okay. So it's Paul. Paul's in here. and Paul went with us to Oklahoma. And so he knows what we're talking about here. But so he saw that the very first night. And then the next night in camp, him and another lady were doing the same thing. They were, Thurman in camp. And on opposite ends of the camp, they saw the same thing on trees in the camp, right? And so now we've got two people seeing it on the same night, opposite ends of the camp. We've seen this 2 different nights. So Saturday, there were some locals that came in, and they're telling us their stories, their Bigfoot stories. And at the very end, the husband looks at the wife and says, okay, now tell her the really weird stuff, right? And I'm like,
yay.
Okay, great. What do we got now? And they go out and they ride the ATV trails late at night. They're out there sometimes 1 a.m. And they're talking about they're flying down this trail one night. And they said, all of a sudden, this thing flies out in front of them. And it was like time stopped. And what they saw went into slow motion. And the wife said it had wings. It had a body. It even looked like it had clothes on. And it had a face. She goes, the only way I know to explain it was that it looked like a fairy. And I thought John was going to fall out of his chair because not everybody knew he'd been seeing that, right? And here we have locals telling us the same thing. So we told them, we're like, yeah, we've been seeing that in camp. And they were just like, oh my God, we're not crazy. You people are seeing this. And we were seeing it before they ever came into camp. Yeah. So there's the fairy stuff. And Paul was saying that ATVers told him there were trolls down there. So, I mean, I don't know. Are we losing our minds? Is the veil getting thin? What are we doing?
All of the above.
That's what I was going to say. All the above. But yeah, I find it interesting that each time we're together, our little tribe.
Yeah.
I think things intensify just a little bit more. And I think it's because, and yeah, I'm going to go out there on the limb here and just say our energies that we're giving off and how we're open-minded to see things. And we're very curious. I think that's why things are just really starting each time we go out, each time we went to the LBL, both times in Missouri, it just got more intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right.
But, I will say this, like there's a lot of magic that I think people don't really know how to experience or have experienced in the woods. I mean, you get stuff inside that's a rabbit out of a hat, or you get the scariest magic here is the Fae magic. I love that this is like such a lighthearted thing, but if you do your historic research on the Fae and fairies and what they actually do to their victims, because you are a victim, it's pretty terrifying. I mean,
they're mean little shits.
Oh yeah. If you hear the music and you eat their food, you're never coming back. Just know that. If you hear the Fae music, you might as well. If it sounds like you're in Ireland or the UK, just SOL. You might as well. Drive out.
You're just done.
That's one of those. That's like, here's Dogman and here's those guys, and they're little, but hearing that is crazy. Like the fact that I've never heard that until those 2 times that you told me that people have said, hey, yeah, we've had this happen. Yeah. It's just something, and that's a pretty good, just kind of like I don't pay attention to it, so maybe I'm not letting it in. And as far as like you're definitely right, Chris. Like if you're in a group and the group has an intent and is charged and knows like what they're doing or what the potential goal is, like, I mean, you look at, UFO researchers sitting in the desert doing, a CE5 contact event and they have contact. Like if we're in the woods and we're knocking on trees or doing house or whatever, like you're probably going to have that type of phenomena like respond back. But it is cool to see that things are starting to come through. Like you said, Marianne, the veil is like pretty thin. And I'm that term veil, I'm not so certain that's kind of like a buzzword for me, not like in a bad way, but there are these contexts that one word contains much more than what you think that word actually is. So it's interesting if you start to look at it from that point, like maybe it's not a veil, maybe there's a double-sided meaning, and that was the word that was put into our vocabulary or plugged into,
Right.
the mindset to say, hey, this is the thing that's getting thin. For me, I really feel like I think that there's a lot more out there now than there was or has been before. And through social media and through, live streams like this and podcasts, like people are more subceptive. So it's like, it's cool to think that you could walk out in the woods with one person or a couple people and potentially have like a really life-changing experience without even really doing anything. Like it's wild. And like the fairy thing is, like I said, that's a thing that I don't know very many current reports, at least within the last like 10 or 15 years, that are like substantial where people are seeing this. And the troll thing is also very weird from my standpoint. It's kind of one of those things that's like the phenomena is appearing to you potentially by or in the form of what you're comfortable with. So if someone's comfortable seeing, like the typical fairy or fae that they've seen in a book, like it might not be so threatening to them, and that's where it gets scary. Or you have like the troll thing is really interesting to me. All trolls look like Ernest P. Worrell when he's scared stupid in the woods, and the troll has a booger dripping from his tree and all that. That's a troll to me. So if I see that, I'm yes, like where's Ernest at? Yeah,
right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
But Chris, you're right. We are starting to have like it's odd to go out, and if we're in a group of 30, I've noticed that if you look at the hard data and you look at the people that are really experiencing things, it's not the entire group of 30, which is not great, but it's also these things are paying attention back. They're not really paying attention. They're not into what we're doing, but this group is really, really, really focused. And whether that's a double-sided like sword. Yeah. Like that could be, that's pareidolia, because you guys are all hyper focused on the same thing. Sure. And which it could be at the end of the day, and we're all just too dumb to realize it, which I'm fine with. It's still fun, but
right, exactly.
You look at the groups that go out, and like these guys will just get hammered with stuff all night long. Like Larry, every time Larry's out, if there's a tent and he's in it, someone's touching it or something's touching it. And it's like, if there's some sort of communication, like, hey, go mess with his tent, like
he's going to be expecting it. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, those dummies sleep on the front porch. Go over there and stare at them through the screen. Slap the cabin. Yeah.
4 a.m. walk by the light just enough to where it blocks it out, and the guy that's alone and everybody else is asleep is now freaking out.
Right.
I mean, Chris, like you guys are in like this giant fortress, and I'm surprised that like they don't come up and just like pick it up, and they're like, Gary, come out. Like,
I know.
He's the same
out
size.
and play.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
Come
and David
home.
too, when David's out, like it's weird. He gets stuff. It seems like if he's in a group, it's not that crazy, but when he goes out alone, it's almost like they know that he's trained to like hyper pay attention to everything. Yeah. So they'll do little stuff, and that that
It's like
whole
they
entire
mess
trip.
with him.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
mess with
yeah.
him because they know he's paying attention.
Yeah.
You know, that's like I was talking to someone today and they're like, well, what do you look for? And it's like, it's really hard to explain to people until you take them out and
Yeah.
go, not that, but that,
That's it.
you
Yeah.
know, type of thing. Because you've got the people that doesn't matter where we're at, what we're doing, every bump in the woods is Bigfoot. Well,
Yeah.
it's not. I hate to tell them, it's not. It's sometimes these very, very, very subtle things that happen that you're like, that's not right. You know, that's not right.
Yeah.
It sometimes it starts out very subtle and then it becomes a lot more. Just like with us being in Arkansas, the amount of acorns hitting the roof, you know,
Yeah.
it was not acorns, you know. I don't care what anybody says. I will die on this hill. It was not acorns because, first of all, Dennis and I went over there, walked the whole area. The ground would have to have been covered in acorns for that many to be hitting.
Yep.
It wasn't acorns. It was not hickory nuts. It was rocks.
Well,
You know.
I don't know if you remember, but the last day, the landowner who's there all the time, whose family lives on the land, I mean, they literally drive into that spot every day.
Yeah.
She said, where are all these rocks coming from? I pick these rocks up all the time. And she pointed
Yes.
them out directly to you and I. And these were not tiny rocks. These were not acorns. These were rocks. And she was like, the boys mow out here. And
She picks them up all the time
picks
so
them
they
up.
can mow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
was kicking the ones that were on the ground. Like, and the funny part is, if you look at all those rocks, they're not buried. They're
No.
sitting on the top of dirt. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, it's not, I still can't I can't think of that and be like, yeah, that's what it was. Like, you know, like there's no possible way that it's just a bunch of acorns. That's
Right.
thousands of acorns because that cabin
Yeah.
got pelted, you know.
Well,
Right.
and what we need to do this coming year is we just need to go back down into that one as a private group
Yeah.
one weekend and take the whole campground up and see what we get. Because last time we were there, you know, the cabin was being slapped and things were being thrown at it. You know, we had that very acidic urine smell when we were in the blind. There
Yeah.
was something that ran between us and the rest of the camp. You know, they were seeing the fairy looking stuff. I mean, there was so much stuff going on in that area that is one area that we're definitely going to go back to, whether it's, you know, our BFRO stuff or private stuff, because there's just too much going on. We can't
Yeah.
leave it alone. You
Yeah,
know?
Chris Gary, you guys got to go to that one too.
Oh, we'll be there.
I mean, at it was like 3:50 in the morning. I jumped over a boulder, sitting by the fire with Richard was right there. I don't, maybe one other person, and then there was another guy that had come. I'm brain farting a name now, but I had told him, I said, "Hey, look, I stuck a little glow stick way that way. If you see it move, yell at me." And as I'm walking back from sticking it in the ground, I sit down in the chair and I look over and I watch this glow stick move 3 feet up and 4 feet back to the road. And I run out of the chair,
Wild.
jump the rock. And when we get 20 yards from it, it's tossed back in the same spot. And the guy that was farther or that was closer to it had FLIR and couldn't see anything, but saw the movement. You know, it's just one of those things. Like, it's just odd. Like LBL for me, totally fine until like I was like, this is I heard so many
until
stories.
Eli took us out and it all got weird.
Thanks, Eli.
Thanks, Eli. But we'll be back. We'll be back.
Yeah. I heard that bell and it was like game over. Like, you know. And
well, that was interesting because we heard the bell in another truck.
Yeah, you guys were so far ahead of us. You were at least 2 vehicles like ahead of us, and we get out of the car and we're like, "Did you hear that bell?" And you're both like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, thanks, Eli. Like traumatized by the sound of a bell.
Traumatized by the bell.
Yeah.
Well, or the grass that the raptors ran through. Remember that?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And
Well,
we saw lights there. We
Yeah.
saw the lights there. And, like your theory of the lights are going on over here and there's something else going on back here. And you were hearing stuff back here while we were watching the lights up here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We
there's-
also had that potentially floating thing, which was
Yeah.
odd, but
that was odd. That was,
I mean, it's not.
Well, it's not, but it's
Yeah.
you, but yeah. And Robert kept saying, there's three of us going, it looks like he's floating. Robert's like, I can see him.
He's
through
on the
night
ground.
vision. He's on the ground.
Yeah.
His feet are on the ground. His feet are
Yeah.
on the ground. It was, it was funny, but it was like, to us, it sure looked like you were just floating around in this little red circle out there. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah, well,
wild, but
there was too much gravity down. They were trying to pull me up, or
right.
yeah.
Right.
I
Exactly.
just real quick, they get mad if they eat the food. If you don't eat their food, just a heads up, that's an answer that's in the comments. Just don't eat the food
Don't eat the food
and run fast.
Don't
Yeah.
eat the food.
You hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Paul was telling me that he's got a video. If Paul could send that to me, that would be phenomenal. We can take a look at that. But yeah, the whole Arkansas, we definitely need to go back into that area, and we'll figure out when and all that good kind of stuff, because it's something that several of you need to experience. Same thing with, we'll be going back to the LBL. It's just a matter of when we can schedule all these things, because we've got all kinds of new things we want to try this year. And, we got the places to do it. We just got to get out there and do it. So,
Yeah.
so we've come up on an hour here. Has anybody got anything else they want to throw out there?
I just want to add, so the last trip that we went on, we were in the RV park, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, everybody left, but the brother and sister, Scott and his sister, I'm sorry. if
Dusty,
you're watching.
Scott and Dusty. Scott
Dusty,
and Dusty.
yeah. So, you guys left. I stayed, right?
Mhm.
And I said,
Went to the place where we cannot talk about the name of it.
yeah, we're just gonna say it. It's Marley Woods. So
Okay.
we went to Marley Woods the night before, and then the three of us went out that day after everybody left.
Mhm.
So what was really interesting about when we went the last time, or the last day, on the way to Marley Woods is about a 40-minute drive if you're going through. So
Yeah.
I had two sets of radios, two radios that do not operate on the same frequency levels. So one is like military, law enforcement, like real deal, like 100-mile antenna if needed, and the other one is a shortwave walkie-talkie, right?
Right.
So those two were running in the car. They had the pair to the walkie-talkie just so we could communicate without using phones. So as we were driving there, those two radios are going on and off simultaneously. So one on, off, one on, off, and it would stop, keeps going, stops. And then my GPS in my truck drove us 2 times basically in a circle because it couldn't figure out where we were. So I called them as we're driving. I said, hey, we need to pull over. I don't know what's going on, but we're having, I'm having like, electronic interference. And they're like, yeah, the screen in her truck, which was a brand new Chevy truck, was completely scrambled. And I saw it. So I visually saw it as we pulled over and talked to him. I took video of the radios going off, some weird stuff with the directions on my screen. But they weren't, this is where it gets weird. The same walkie-talkie that I had that was going on and off and on and off, theirs was not doing anything. So they're less than a car length behind me in the middle of the day where there should be no interference. And this is happening almost the entire way as we're going to Marley Woods. So we pull into the road after we figure out where we're at. And I say, okay, we're going this way. And I'm like, hey, we're here. Just kind of pay attention. If anything starts happening, this is a good spot to, this, like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here. So we pull in. I kind of give them the rundown of where we were. And she's turned around looking at the other side of the farm from the parking lot, essentially. Parking lot right there.
Right.
If you know what it is, you know what it is.
Right.
So she's looking at the tree line, and this is cool because it comes back to lights, and she sees this tiny little glowing orb come out of the tree line, hit the top, and then just kind of go away. Like it's only maybe 10 feet above the tree line, and she's trying to get Scott and I's attention as we're talking, and we're both like, what's going on? Because we're seeing kind of some other stuff potentially moving around. And I mean, it was the middle of the day. It was like bright daylight. And this light was, she said, almost the size of like a baseball, if I remember correctly. And it was just out of the treetop and then out of nowhere, completely gone. So, and I mean, that's one of the phenomena that happens down there, but it's one of those things that's like, you know, like maybe she was supposed to look that way because something else was coming up and we're totally just oblivious and looking the wrong way. But it is odd that really the only crazy electronic weird stuff we had at that entire time that I can remember was the day after everybody's gone, and it's just the three of us.
Yeah, so, because we didn't have any of that when we drove out there that night. No electronic issues.
No, nothing. Yeah. And I mean, it was relatively calm. I mean, we didn't really have, we had some weird sounds.
And a couple of questionable lights and some weird sounds. And you had us belly crawling through the parking lot.
Yeah, the parking lot, trying to just see what was going on, The even better part of that whole entire micro excursion was as I'm driving out, I had noticed this truck that had driven by us and came back and then drove by us again. And it was, we'll just call it William's cousin, the same guy as William, basically, in this beat up Chevy truck.
Yeah.
As I start to pull out and come back through to make my way back to St. Louis, I see him and he's pulled over by the creek bed that we drove over, right? So I walk over, or I pull over because I'm like, this guy's right here. Like he didn't drive by for nothing, like twice for nothing. And I was like, hey, do you live around here? He's like, yeah, I live straight up on the top of the property there. And I said, are you connected to this farm or this farm? And he's like, no, my property line butts up to these guys right here. Yeah. And I said, okay. I said, what's the possibility of me getting, access to a portion of your land for a couple days and just parking in a field and staring at that field? And he's like, why do you want to stare at that field? And I was like, I've done a lot of research. I kind of have a general location idea of where I'm at and what, happens around this area. And he's like, well, how long? And I said, just a couple days, like a week at the most. And he's like, when do you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know, maybe, the spring. And he's like, spring's really active. He's like, I'll give you my phone number. So I got this guy's phone number and he goes, how'd you find out about the spot? And I was, I just said, hey, I'm really good at research and figuring out what I need to find. So he's like, yeah, you can come. He was like, the only thing though, is like, if anything happens, he's like, that's on you. Cause he said that line between those farms, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. He said, it's almost non-existent. And I said, I am 1000% okay with that. And he was like, the conversation was really odd because it was like, ask a question and then no answer for like 40 minutes. And he'd be like, well, yeah, not really 40 minutes, but you could tell.
But it seemed like it. Yeah. He's thinking about it.
Yeah. And I'm like, this guy's going to think I'm an idiot. But I kind of I was like, why is this guy driving by 2 times? And I'm like, okay, he probably doesn't see people parked out here very often. He's seen my truck at least twice now. So the hopes, I don't know if you remember, as we took that back way out, you get up and you pass the river and then you go up and there's a farm that's right there at the top. Well, that front gate is his gate. And he said, you could pull in right there. And I said, okay, cool.
There you go. So Levi, Paul's got a question on here. He's asking an EMF. Yeah. What do you have a suggestion?
So yes, but it's way too long of an answer for this podcast or this live episode, the best way to do it is just my email. It's levi@narcop.com. So NARCOP, North American Research Center of Paraufology. Just email me. That's the best way, because then I can tell you. I don't personally use them. I think there's a lot of faults with them, and I think they give a lot of false readings that people don't really understand, but that's just kind of my, like, I am an EMF meter to an extent. Yeah. It's like
That's what
sounding
Pyro
rods, but
says. Yeah.
yeah, it just runs in and says, look this way. Or
Yeah.
it's Marianne's voice going here in the middle of the night from the tree line where she's not.
Yeah.
But that's the best way. I can give you 3 possible models to get and what those 3 models do the best. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if people have weird questions, like you can email me all day long. I'll respond,
yeah.
I'm an open book at this point. So
Oh,
I just
yeah.
I can't wait to see everybody again. I can't wait to
I
walk up
know.
do you guys have snow down there now or?
No, not
Yes.
right now.
Okay. Gary's
No.
probably
I-
melted it with a flamethrower and
Right,
napalm.
right.
He,
He's out
he does have
dancing
a
in the yard.
flamethrower.
I knew it.
I can see it. Can't you see him out in the yard in his kilt and his flamethrower?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't he have that? Is that what he started the fire with the last night? when we were down?
Probably.
Okay. Because he had a chainsaw too.
He did.
In the middle of the woods, a chainsaw. Just,
Well, the
There you go.
chainsaw's David's fault.
okay.
Yeah.
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 That makes
Because
sense.
what happened to David scared him, so he said he would never go unprepared again. So
Yeah.
Yeah. He was pretty shook. Sorry,
Yeah.
David.
David's fun
Yeah.
to take in the woods. Yeah.
When's the
He is.
when's the
He
first
is.
when's the first expedition?
The first BFRO expedition will probably be the end of March.
Yay. I can't wait.
Yeah, I know,
We're like-
right? Right.
We're like
So-
7 days from then, right?
Yeah.
I know. You want to go again? I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah, we're, like I said, we've got several expeditions planned. We got all kinds of stuff. We got all kinds of tech we're going to roll out this year. Just all kinds of good things we're going to be doing and trying. So, everybody keep an eye on the BFRO.net. Go on there and look for the Missouri expeditions, the Arkansas ones, the Oklahoma ones. We've got all kinds of things that we're going to do, and we want you to go with us on all of our adventures. So, all right, guys. Well, I think at this point we're done. So we're glad everybody came and hung out with us, and we got to see everybody, and we appreciate you all. And tune in again next week to see what we've got. So, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.